I would like to continue to show some games from this book written by Nigel Davies, because I believe he did a good job at trying to give us a complete opening repertoire for black, not only after 1d4 but also after possible transposition. Here we are going to watch game number 4, which is between K. Meaton and E. Perestein at the Spice Cup in Lubbock 2007. Perestein is one of the authors of this Chess Opening for Black Explain, a complete repertoire by Grandmaster Lev Alburt, Grandmaster Roman Dzhizhanishvili, and Grandmaster Eugene Perestein. In fact, they give as part of their repertoire the Nimzo-Indian and the Bogo Indian. So clearly this game by Perestein that is being included in Nigel Davies' opening repertoire, it's from someone that has practiced that opening for a long time probably, and is really a theoretical master about it, because if he wrote a book he clearly knows what he's doing, right? So the game began with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, and here there is queen c2. Nigel Davies writes, one of White's oldest antidotes to the Nimzo. White prevents the doubling of his pawns and lends support to the e4 square. The drawbacks are that it does move the queen quite early and takes her away from the protection of d4. Knight c6. The repertoire line, a simple and logical move that found favor with pioneers of the Nimzo-Indian, including Alexander Alekhine and Nimzovich himself. Blacks attack the d4 pawn and is preparing to exchange his dark square bishop, and will put his pawns on d6 and e5. Okay, d6 and d5. White's main hopes will be based on making effective use of his bishop pair. Knight f3, d6, a3. The main line, he says, is bishop d2, which he says is covering games 5 through 8. Okay, so in this game it was played a3, bishop takes e3, and queen takes e3. So clearly the idea of a queen c2 is to avoid to take back with the b pawn. a5, and here there is the question, what does that move do? Here it says it's a useful move which inhibits White's planned queenside pawn advance and arguably threatens to play a4. Why a4 it's great? Because once you have moved this, the problem is knight a5 and b3, and he has a kind of very strong outpost controlling a lot of squares. So that's, I think, it's the problem, right? If he's able to play a4. So how did White continue here? He continued with b3. And of course here there is a comment by Davies, castle, bishop b2, Notice there are some lines that Davies is showing with bishop g5. Obviously, for those that are interested, I advise you to buy the book. Rook e8, rook d1, queen e7 and e3. g3 would be met by e5, and here it gives a line, okay? So, however, also e3 is in this game covered by e5, right? So, here white played bishop e2, and Davies writes, maintaining the option, a capture on e5 looks like the most testing way to play it. What happens if white pushes his d-pawn on? Well, it seems that after d5, knight b8, and black has a comfortable game. And here he gives a line of the game that was played in 2010. Okay? Okay, so after bishop e2, there is bishop g4. d5, knight b8, and then we have queen c2. Notice that he gives a line with castle, and also in that case, in reality, it seems it's good for black. So probably queen c2 is a little better. Knight bd7, h3, bishop h5, knight h4, bishop takes c2. And here he played an interesting move, knight f5, yeah, queen f8, queen takes e2, and then we have g6. And here there is a diagram. Pushing white back. Black has a very comfortable game already. So knight g3, and here black played h5. But Davies writes that knight c5 would have been a simpler approach, but it's always tempting to harass a knight on g3 with a h-pawn. Okay, harass the knight. The problem is that sometimes once you advance some pawns, you cannot bring them back, right? So queen c2, h4. So queen c2, clearly something, guys, like I told you in other videos, when they make a move, there is a reason. You need to think what is the reason. In this case, it's leaving open this square. Why? Because he cannot block that probably, and so he needed the right square for the knight. So that's why he played queen e2. Sorry, queen c2, h4, knight e2, and here he plays knight h5, castle, f5. Wow, black has a good position here, and look, this kind of pawn structure reminds me of Leningrad, but you don't have a bishop here, and this is a little strange, I think, right? But let's see how they continue. f4. This helped black considerably by giving him a long-term option to open the e-file. It seems that it was better to play knight c3 or rook f e1. but f4 not so good. Yet strangely Nigel Davies doesn't mark it as a mistake or as dubious. Knight c5, b4, a takes b4, a takes b4, knight e4. And now there is something that is marked a mistake by Davies, which is knight c1. It seems the move that white should have played was c5. Knight c1, here Davies writes, turning a poor position into what is effectively a lost one. The best chance for counterplay was, like I told you, c5, when black still has a fight on his hands, while it seems now, after knight c1, there is no fight. Knight eg3, rook f2, e takes f4, e takes f4, and now, obviously, there is rook e4. Practically, he puts a rook in an outpost, and then probably he will double, because if you exchange the rook, nothing happens, right? He's able to keep control of that square. So knight e3 and rook e8. As you can see, I can read the Grandmaster mind. King h2, and now there is rook e2. Wow, amazing. Rook takes e2, it seems it's a dubious move. Rook takes e2, probably it's dubious because it gives control of a file to black, but honestly I don't know what white could have done, honestly. Queen c3, kind of threatening to enter. King f7, immediately prevent that, and now there is a mistake by white, which plays rook a1. Here Davies writes, hereabouts I get the impression that time trouble was playing a part, hastening white's demise. Once more, c5 was the move, okay? Okay, so after rook a1, there is queen e8, and here the engine recommends queen h8 for white, but it's hopeless, and after 4-5 moves one can see why. And instead white played knight e1, to which followed knight f1 check, king g1, and of course now there is a queen e3 check again. Now, what do you think instead black should have played? Because Davies writes that there is a move that would have won on the spot. The move is knight d2. He says would have won on the spot. Okay, if he says this. Instead, queen e3 is just as effective, Davies writes. Queen takes e3, knight takes e3, bishop d4, and knight takes f4. So now black has a pawn advantage, and here is a king side majority from which he should be able to create a pass pawn. Let's see what happens. Bishop takes e3, rook takes e3, knight f3, rook c3, so it goes for the pawns, c5, d takes c5, b takes c5, and rook takes c4. 5. It seems that black is more active. Rook b1, b5, knight e5, check, and here there is the last move of the game, which is king g7, and we don't know if white resigned or maybe he lost for time. In any case, obviously this position has a lot of problems, right? Because as you can see, he can go here to attack here, he can take this. Black has a lot of possibilities and opportunities. I hope you enjoyed this game, which comes from the opening repertoire Nimzo-Indian and Queen's Indian defenses by Nigel Davies. Thank you very much for watching.